Hello guys. In the previous videos, we discussed social stratification, the context, the concept, and the dimensions. And then we started off with the theories. And then we covered Davis and Moore and Marxian theories of stratification. So here in this video, we'll be talking about Weberian theory of social stratification. Okay, so very important. So if you remember, one of the most important criticism of Davis and Moore theories, it's based on class stratification, and they're identifying only the function, right? And they consider social stratification as a necessity, and it is fulfilling certain vital functions in the society, right? Especially society's functioning. And then when it comes to Marx have seen stratification as class-based, and that's rooted in ownership of means of production. And here, when it comes to Weber criticized both these monodimensional view, and he proposed a multi-dimensional model of stratification, which is not only based on class, but also he brings the aspect of status and power. So his understanding of stratification is a multi-dimensional model, and that's based on class, status, and power. So let's try to understand class first. It's very much similar to what we have discussed before. So class is the economic order here, and he defined by market situation, not only ownership here. Remember, when we talked about Marx, it's in terms of ownership of means of production, right? So either you have the ownership relation or you don't have the ownership relation. But when it comes to Weber, he defined market situation. Okay, so basically your life chances depend on access to the economic resources, and he differentiated different types of classes, right? And based on property and skills, like property upper class, that's the landlords and the industrialist, and propertyless white collar class, that's the clerks and the supervisors, and then petty bourgeois, that's the small shopkeepers, artisans, like that, and then working class, which are the manual laborers. So if you look at this, Weber's class is like position in the market, not just relation to the production, right? So that is your market situation or the position in the market. That's class according to Weber. And he defined four classes: propertied upper class, propertyless white collar class, petty bourgeois, and then working class. Next dimension is status. That is nothing but the social order, which is based on prestige, honor, and the social estimation, right? And this is related to your lifestyle, the customs, the culture, the social approval, and all these are dimensions. For example, when we talk about Indian society, Brahmins retain that status or prestige. If you see, even after the land reforms, your economic strength has come down. Your land is taken away and redistributed to the landless after land reform. But if you look at Brahmins, their status or the prestige remain the same. They are at the top level, but economically they became weaker. Now, if you look at some of the Brahmins who were so big landlords at one point of time, they are even suffering in poverty now, but still they have the status of Brahmin. Okay, now that is one thing which you can see. Economically, you may be slightly reducing your strength, but still status wise you are at the top. So status group are mostly closed, and that lead to social closure also. For example, you can talk about the caste as an example, or ethnic group. These are based on status. Now, the third dimension, according to Weber, is power or party. So, class, status, party. Okay, so Andre Bette in the Indian context will take up the similar analysis that we will discuss in paper 2. So, power or party means the political order. So, economic order, social order, and the political order. So, these are three things that have been taken into consideration, or three dimensions. Now, this is nothing but the ability to influence in a communal action. So that will be expressed through political parties or associations or unions, and that shows the power. It may or may not coincide with class or status. You may be poor person, you may not be from the Brahmin caste, right? But still you may be politically superior, right? So you might be from a Dalit caste, or you might be from Shudra, but still politically you might be strong. You might become an MLA, or you might become a minister. So for Weber, you may be economically weak but socially strong. Like in case of Brahmins, once after land reforms, their economic strength has come down, but still status-wise they are very good. Sometimes you may not be economically strong or status-wise also, but politically you may be strong. But according to Weber, those who are strong in all these scenarios, for example, a Brahmin who's status-wise strong, who's rich, who's economically strong, and who's politically strong, like a minister, rich Brahmin minister will be the top of the structure. So Here, when we talk about the political aspect, you can say political leader from a poor background, right? He have that immense power, despite the fact that he have the low status in terms of, caste or ethnicity, or he might be having a poor background in terms of class, if you see. But power wise, you are strong. But who's more strong? you know when you draw the Venn diagram, you can draw like this, right? Three Venn diagram, those who come at the top. When you study CSAT, ABC, right? ABC coming together in the center, right? So the class, status, party, so the one who comes in the center, they are the most powerful in the society. So the key concept here that you need to understand is, first, multidimensionality. Not only talking about class, not monodimensional, it is multidimensional. So he's taking into consideration class, status, and power that will overlap, but they often operate independently also. Class, status, party can often operate independently, as I discussed multiple examples, but they overlap, and where the overlap is strong, that's where that person is very strong in the society. So stratification is nothing but multi-dimensional inequality according to Weber, unlike Marx or Davis and Moore's unidimensional or monodimensional class model. Again, if you look at the one of the concepts that he introduced is life chances, right? That is nothing but the opportunities for securing material and cultural goods like health, education, etc. And that also differ across the strata. So life chances are varying across the strata. So stratification can also be understood in terms of life chances. Couple of examples I have given: a rich businessman, he may be high class, but he may lack prestige in a elite cultural circle in terms of its low status, right? So see, there is a especially when you talk about in the context of Kerala, there is something called a stoddy, right? Or alcohol seller, you can take it. He is from a lower caste, but he is economically very strong. Like there is a very famous movie, and there is one dialogue also. That person is coming and he's telling that I'm very rich. I have all the cars in the world. I have Rolls Royce. I have BMW. I have only, but people are not respecting me. But still, people are saying that he's selling alcohol and he's from the lower caste. I'm not talking about big alcohol tycoons, but some of the particular caste. They don't have the status, but economically they are strong. Politically also they can be strong, right? If you contest election and win, but still status-wise you are weak. So Brahmin priest, another example. You have high status, but economically very poor. So these are independent examples. So all these three can act independently. At the same time, these can overlap. Where there is an overlap, that's where that person is going to be more powerful. Again, a trade union leader, he has the power, but he is poor, and his status also may not be that great, right? So these are a couple of examples which I can tell you how these act independently, but at the same time, talk about a rich Brahmin minister. All the three is overlapping, right? A Dalit, poor, but a trade union leader. It's only power he has. Rich person, but from a lower caste, no political power, only class-wise he is superior. Okay, so what are the criticism now? See, here the criticism is like overemphasis on status or prestige, and which is something don't have a proper measurement. This is unclear measurement also. Again, if you compare it with Marx, Weber don't have a theory on social change, right? So that is one of the criticism. Just for the sake of criticism, there is no revolutionary agenda or anything. And then critics also say multidimensionality diffuses its focus. Nowadays, the inequalities or the stratification is getting more individualistic in nature. But still, what is the contemporary relevance? If you look at it, it's very useful in explaining the caste class overlap, especially when it comes to Indian society. That is where this is going to be very much useful. And that we will be studying. This is a revision session, so you have completed paper 1, paper 2, and you are attending. So you know that this same framework has been used by Andre Bethé for studying the Indian society. And this also explains why economically weak group, they retain influence in society. Either they are politically powerful or they may be from upper caste. So still they have that influence despite the fact that they are poor economically. And then if you look at modern democracies, they show power is not only aligned with class, right? Nowadays, especially after reservation, the Dalit leaders are also there. right? So these are examples which you can write. And when it comes to answers, when you are writing the answer, you start with the contrast with Marx and Davis and Moore, and then in the body you explain the class status party model, which I've discussed, show the overlapping, draw the diagram, and then show the life chances with examples, how this operate independently, how this multidimensionality come together, how they overlap, and all these things you can mention. And towards the end, in conclusion, mention Weber's multidimensionality as more realistic, but less radical compared to Marx. Cool. So that's about this session. Thank you so much for attending. I see you in the next video. In case if you're looking for any mentorship on sociology or test series or the classes, get in touch with us. See you.